Maya Angelou said, if you're gonna live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. I'm Martin, this is Donald and Curtis. We're native New Yorkers. Welcome to season 3 of the Road to Legacy podcast.
Together, Martin and I have worked in hospitality for about almost 40 years. And we've been truly blessed to meet people from all walks of life. And in those conversations, it led us to question, what is legacy? What is the driving force that motivates people to do what it is that they do? That passion led us to create the Road to Legacy podcast.
And hey, I'm Curtis, the newest passenger on this Road to Legacy podcast, a student, lover of history, and I'm just super enthused, man, to be along for the ride with my brothers, discussing, debating life, politics, and race, and everything in between. Just hope you come and join us on this quest of seeking, learning, and above all, leaving a legacy. Grace and peace from the Road to Legacy.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Road to Legacy. I'm Martin Small of the Road to Legacy podcast, and my partner in crime is right next to me. And what's your name?
Donald Reed from New York City, man. You look like you.
Go. I look like what?
You look like you're on a little vacay.
No, I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling. But I'm just here, just trying to maintain and start this podcast in the right way. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about during today's podcast, because we're off and on. You see us sometimes, you see us, you don't see us, but we do this because we want to bring people together and actually raise awareness that we all can be a part of making life better for each other. So one of the things that we were going to talk about today, just really quickly, because I don't know how much time we really have. We're like late on what we're going to do today. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is the last 6 months. What has happened in African Americans' lives in the last 6 months, an African American world in the last 6 months. And one of the things that's been happening, and we know the whole thing with Donald Trump and our civil rights being taken away, Voting Rights Act. But one of the biggest things right now that happened a couple of weeks ago was the Nolan Wells case. You know something about that, Donald?
Yeah, Nolan Wells, a young African American male in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
He, on the 4th of July, he went out with his friends on a fishing trip, or just to hang out. And the 3 of his friends came back, and he did not.
Right.
So this investigation is ongoing, and we see this all the time, where crimes or murders are committed, either if it's by police shooting a young African-American male or female, or one of us end up missing and lynching. And, over these last 6 months, we've watched America continue to wrestle with race, injustice, education, opportunity, and accountability. And in this Nolan Wells case right now, we are still searching for answers, for accountability. And, we're not getting this. And one thing I want to say really quickly is we're doing something different. So this time, guys, we are streaming on Kick as well. So I just want to let you know. So we're getting some feedback from Kick. So what's up, everybody in the Kick land?
Right. So like July 4th was basically when it happened. July 4th, what's that, Independence Day or something like that?
Yeah, it's America's Independence Day.
Yeah, Independence Day. And I'm in America, so it's Independence Day. But the point of the matter is that they were out there on Independence Day, and they all went out to have fun on an island. Most people know the story right now, and people who don't, just Google Nolan Wells, Mississippi boat trip to Horn Island, right?
Yeah, it was Horn Island.
Right. And the thing about it is that, they went out there. Now, we don't know to this point, unless something happened in the last hour, if he was killed, murdered, lynched, drowned, had an accident. We don't know any of that. And that's the problem. The problem is not at this point what happened, because nobody really knows, unless something has happened in the last 5-10 minutes that we don't know about. But the problem is that how come nobody knows? We've Colin Kaepernick had helped the family get the autopsy done on the young man, the young body that
It was
found.
a few people. It was Colin Kaepernick. It was Tyler Perry.
Wait, but Tyler Perry, he paid for the funeral. Colin Kaepernick only did the autopsy.
Right, but it wasn't only Colin Kaepernick. There were a few.
Yeah, but he was the only one to do the autopsy.
No. That's not true. There's a few people who donated to get the autopsy done. Byron Allen donated money to get the autopsy done as well.
Right.
A bunch of people actually donated to that, just to kind of clear things up. And there are some things that we do know.
Who paid for the funeral?
Tyler Perry was one. There was a bunch of.
So meaning combined, they all helped out the family.
Yes,
not the one thing.
Yeah, Byron Allen donated $100,000 to the GoFundMe for the investigation. There was, you mentioned Colin Kaepernick. There's also Tyler Perry. I believe Tyrese. I believe LeBron James. A lot of African American entertainers have donated money to raise funds for autopsy and also funeral arrangements. But there are a few things that we do know is also what makes this very suspicious in terms of knowing all the facts and details about this case. One thing that's suspicious, besides the 3 other guys that he went on his fishing trip with and didn't come back, is that Nolan's cell phone was missing. And then when they did retrieve his cell phone, things were deleted from the cell phone. And so that definitely increases suspicion. And if these are your friends, wouldn't you want to give the police all the information that's needed? And then why would you delete messages from his phone? It's interesting. And in the autopsy, they also found organs missing. His larynx, his esophagus was missing. They found some red discoloration in the back of his brain, and we don't know if that's from just drowning. But what's interesting is, why are police not investigating more, especially in suspicion since his cell phone returned and there are things that were deleted off of his phone?
Mm-hmm.
The investigation is still ongoing, so it's not considered a homicide yet, or expressing that if it was racially motivated or not.
Right.
What's important is, regardless of the the final investigation, Nolan's story has touched many families across the country. I mean, especially being an African American man, and just like you and I, we both have kids.
Right.
So it makes me think about my 2 children, and I imagine myself, God forbid, in that situation. And it's not just Nolan Wells. There's Jared J. Jackson, who was also murdered recently.
What happened to him? Murdered by who?
He was shot in the head by police as well. And they're still searching for answers. So it's a lot of things that's going on, and that's been happening. And then and not to jump to other people, but there's Cohan Wiley and there's Tryon Jackson. And this is within the last 6 months. And then we have also the FIFA and Black athletes facing racism also in FIFA. FIFA is the World Cup that just happened. And then we got our most beloved rapper Jay-Z, talking about how we are boycotting. It's an interesting. It's always an interesting time for African Americans in this country.
Well, they're talking about how Black people. I mean, Jay-Z talking about how Black people are hypocrites, but yet you have people like Wiley getting killed. You have people, and I say getting killed because we don't know the level of if they're being murdered or what's going on. We don't know the level of lynching because we don't have the information. And that's what, if somebody's going to protest, they need to protest because we don't have the information first. And then, let the chips fall where they may. We need the whole story. And one of the problems with Wells and Wiley is that we don't know the whole story. And Wiley, that was a 1-year-old boy. A lot of people don't know that. He was a little boy that got killed. The other gentleman, I don't know who you were talking about. I don't know the case with that, but I have more sympathy. I have sympathy for my people. I have more sympathy for that 1-year-old boy because how innocent. I mean, what can a 1-year-old boy do to make the police shoot them? Or maybe the cop made a mistake. I don't know. But if it's no transparency in it, and that's where the issue lies when it comes to us and our rights, and vice versa.
Yeah, the Colin Wiley that was killed by police officer, they were responding to a shoplifting call involving a box of diapers.
Right.
And then, it was two women attempted to drive away and the officer opened fire on the vehicle. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing that is not just traumatic, but just outright ridiculous to use this type of excessive force when you're responding to a shoplifting call. Mm-hmm. There's no reason that you need to draw your weapon and open fire on a vehicle if they're driving away for diapers. There's no murder. There was no shooting. There was no massive danger. Granted, the law was broken for stealing diapers and fleeing from the scene and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But what we constantly find dealing with police officers, specifically African Americans dealing with police officers, there's excessive force used when apprehending or dealing with us constantly. Mm-hmm. This is not the case when it is a white person that's being pursued or apprehended by police officers. There's less force that's used. There's more leniency. There's more of the guidelines of serve and protect that go into play. Yet we constantly see this excessive force with African Americans dealing with police, and it's just ridiculous that these, and also just the legalities that happen afterward is just mind blowing. The police claimed again that the car drove in the direction of the officer, but it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense.
Well, people need to get ready because it's going to be overshadowed. It's going to be overshadowed, this stuff, once it does come out and they start doing legal things to help out our community. When it comes to things, it's going to be overshadowed because now white people are getting shot in their face by cops. You know what I'm saying? White people are being shot and there's no investigation. So when that starts popping up, then they're going to put more of our stuff on the back burner because that doesn't make the news as much as it does. And it doesn't happen. It does happen, but white people be getting shot in their face by cops, like the last ICE situation that happened a couple of weeks ago. 2 people in a week and a half got shot in the face by ICE and killed. And, they're not, I don't know if they have immunity. I can't remember if the Trump administration brought back qualified immunity on a level where cops can do what they want to our bodies and to other bodies. But I know that the Department of Justice and that ICE has gotten more money from the administration than any other department right now in the United States. More, I think they get more than Medicaid right now, more than a lot of other different departments, the military and so forth and so on. So they have the right to be, blowing up and shooting people. But, one of the things that I just want to make sure the people know out there is that you have to know the whole story. You can't just be walking around saying they're shooting us and they're killing us, and you don't know who the us is, you don't know who the story is, And you can't just say it's them against us all the time. You need to know the whole story. That's the main thing that and that's one of the reasons I haven't spoke about it on TikTok or whatever about Nolan Wells, because I don't know the whole story. So now that I don't know the whole story, then the question is why don't I know the whole story? And it has to be, just like you said, when it came to the autopsy, has to be if the man's throat is missing and there's parts of the body missing that can show evidence that he was drowned or killed or beat or hurt, then yeah, then we have to protest and we have to say something's wrong with it. But we have to do it very carefully so we know the whole story. And sometimes we don't know the whole story. And I always bring that up. And that's the whole thing I was telling you a while back about Jay-Z, knowing the whole story, not just seeing that he's a great rapper, he's a dude that made a lot of money that came from Marcy Projects, but not knowing his story and how he wants to continue to have a seat at the table. That's the same thing when it comes to these crimes and this injustice, and all that stuff. And it all ties into redistricting, the power of voting. It all ties into Supreme Court decisions when it comes to once they find the body and they find out that something's wrong, they can make like a law. Just like when little girls go missing, they have Megan's Law, and stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. If we know the whole story, then we can kind of get back to where we were back in the Black Wall Street days when we were building our own businesses and keeping our own stuff together. But we have to know the whole story.
Yeah, it's constantly things happening every single day under this administration, and we also have the war that's going on, and it's just
and you still have the stuff going on in Gaza.
Yeah, we do still have the stuff going on in Gaza with Israel bombing and murdering people there, and there's Mamdani, constantly people talking about Mamdani and how some people feel that he's creating division. I know that a lot of people are afraid of this term called socialist, but not really looking at what he's actually doing in
the people that are bugging out over socialism and socialists and democratic socialism and communism. Those people, they don't read. They don't understand what it means. Being a socialist, a democratic socialist, does not mean that you want the whole country to be socialist. Democratic socialism is basically saying, we can have our capitalist world and y'all can make your money and y'all can make a lot of money, but everybody should still have health care. Everybody should still, have schools that they don't have to pay for. Everybody should still be able to buy a home. Everybody. It's that simple. And the billionaires could still make their billions. You know what I'm saying? Everybody should be paying, the billionaires should be paying taxes. But some people, they go back to those 1932, those 1922 and all that stuff. And they think about it as being some, communism had different facets of it. It wasn't just one type of communism. So a lot of people they don't read. They just don't understand.
Yeah. And it's sad. And just for people who are going to listen and watch this later, the definition of a socialist person is one who supports political and economic systems where the community or the government owns and controls major resources, factories, and services instead of private companies. And a democratic socialist is people who want the socialist economy created through free and fair democratic elections.
Right.
People are afraid of socialism, and it's just really fascinating to me.
You fear something that you just don't understand. Just like when people were afraid, there's people that don't understand Black people and don't know our history, and some people are afraid. Just like vice versa. If we know white supremacist attitudes and understanding, we wouldn't be afraid, and we'll be able to react better to it instead of hiding from it or saying that it's not a racist country or whatever that some people say. So
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
those things, I mean, a lot of people don't. I mean, I remember reading years ago, and I bring this up sometimes, and some people go, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about," whatever. But I remember reading about our Constitution, and when you look at our Constitution, and this is why, a lot of us just don't understand. A lot of people didn't like W.E.B. Du Bois, and a lot of people had problems with Malcolm X before he passed away when he became Malik Shabazz. But the Constitution was written not as a lot of people think it was written as something against the slaves, something that wanted slavery. But the Constitution was actually a document that was against slavery. Many people don't know that, and some and especially white people. A lot of people don't know that because we always look at the Constitution as something that was written as a law, especially Black people, against us. But it was written in a way that it was supposed to protect us. So, for example, when the first slaves came to this country by the Puritans, or whoever brought them here, a lot of people don't know they were arrested and they were forced to pay for those slaves that came to this country to go back to Africa. They had to pay after they paid for the whole journey for them to go back to Africa. People don't know that part of the story. People don't understand what 3/5 of the 3/5 clause was. What do you think the fifth clause was? I mean, people out there, some people don't know.
What you're saying? What was the 3/5 clause that African Americans were not considered human beings? We were considered 3/5 of a man, meaning that we.
But that's the whole story, and that's the point. That's not true. But for years and years and years, Black people think that way. So when I say the things that I say, some people go, "Yo, Martin, you don't know what you're talking." Yo, the 3/5 clause was basically a political thing. That's why I tell people to vote. Black people, not women, but Black men have been involved in the political system from the inception of this country. There were free Blacks in the North, and there were slaves in the South, right? The people in the South, you know how our system works. When you check your systems, like Donald Shurt, the legislative, how we roll in our government, right? We have people that represent us in different states. And by the population, those people are picked. I'm trying to just break it down as best as I can. The population of people in those areas, in those states, is how it's picked. The South wanted slavery. The North was like, it's not necessary. So the South was like, yo, check this out. We're going to count our commodities, our Negroes, our slaves as people, so we can get more people in Congress, our senators inside the thing to vote for what we need, inside the government to vote for what we need. And what we want is we want slavery. The North said, okay, well, if you're going to do that, then my tractor is a person, because you can't call a human being a tool just so you can get votes, so you can keep those human beings enslaved. So my tractor is, so they fought about that. And then they had to meet middle ground. And they had to make a law that basically said, in this part of the story, that the people over there are 3/5 of a man.
3/5 of.
So they made the 3/5 clause so that they couldn't, that it was a fight. It was basically, they shouldn't have done it at all, but they made it to say, no, you can't count them. You can't count them just so you can get more people in the government to vote for slavery. That's not right. You can't do that. People out there, when you research that and look deep into that, look at that, and then wonder why Frederick Douglass was able to talk about this in front of Abraham Lincoln, in front of the White House back in them days, is because he researched that. And he was the one that wanted everybody to know what the 3/5 clause was. So when you walk around and you're saying that they're saying that we were less than a man, that's not true. It's not fully true. You got to know the whole story. So when I look at Nolan, when I look at Jay-Z, when I look at all these people, I research and I learn the whole story so I could have a fight in the game. So I won't sound ignorant when I'm talking. So I don't say something for years upon years upon years, and one dude, white or black, all of a sudden says to me, "Nope, that's not the truth about the 3/5 clause." Very
Yeah,
important.
it was the 3/5 compromise in 1787 from the U.S. Constitutional Convention, and what it meant is for every 5 enslaved black people, a state could count 3 of them towards its total population.
Right.
It was for political power for the southern states, and they wanted to count all enslaved people to get more seats in the Congress.
See what I'm saying? And the more seats you get, the more laws you pass. And that was a time when black people, believe it or not, even though we were enslaved and all that shit, some of us were voting. Some of us was part of the political system. It didn't happen until 1780, 87 or something like that, where, you know, we were part of the political thing. The Constitution was not made to oppress people. It was made as it was a piece of paper that was built as an abolitionist tool. But people look at our government as being something other than. And then if I say something like, you know, Black Wall Street was destroyed by the people, by the humans, because I don't want to give no human a free ride. There's so many black and white people out here, especially white people, that get a free ride, and then we blame the government didn't help out people at Black Wall Street. I agree with that. And that's part of the problem. That's one of the biggest parts of the problem. But they were an initial people to come in. They didn't send the armies in to destroy Black Wall Street. It was the next door neighbors. It was the dudes that you see marching in DC now with their Ku Klux Klan, their faces covered up, you know, that are hiding behind. That's why when I go to the doctor now, I talk to them a little bit about what they believe and how they feel about the government. And if they sound a little bit off, that they're supporting Trump and they support, I ain't staying there. He ain't gonna look at my nuts. You see what I'm saying? Because he might do some crazy stuff to me. And that's what I'm talking about. This country has been so hoodwinked and bamboozled, like Malcolm X said. And we have been just fooled the most out of all the people in this country, out of all the races. Even though I think some immigrants come here and they look at us like we're crazy because they've been hoodwinked and bamboozled, that I refuse to be hoodwinked and bamboozled. So I read like Frederick Douglass did. Frederick Douglass read the Constitution back and forth, and he found that the Constitution was not for slavery. It was a piece of paper so there would never be slavery.
Yeah. So, and the 14th Amendment in 1868 allowed us or recognized African Americans as citizens that gave them the right to vote. However, they were still attempts to deny that. And then in 1870, African American men were given the right to vote. Mm-hmm. You know, and it prohibited any state or local government from denying that right. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we've been, to Martin's point, we have been fighting and voting and always involved in this political process in the United States. Mm-hmm. It was never a time that we didn't. If we had once we received the right to vote, we definitely did vote. And now, why does all of this matter? Why does voting matter? And why do we bring this up? The whole 3/5 of a man clause and all of this stuff. And how does it tie into what we're currently seeing right now with this administration, the murder and death of Nolan Wells, the murder and death of so many African Americans that we're constantly seeing. And it all plays a role. And sometimes there's this conflict, right? Where we say, or some of us believe that, well, voting doesn't really matter. Like my vote doesn't matter and it doesn't really affect my day to day. It doesn't bring any changes in my community. We still being mistreated and we're still, looked over and programs are missing and da. And we don't realize how important the local voting is. Mm-hmm. Like for your city council person, for your congressman, your state's representative, what you call it, like I said, your city council person, because all these people are the ones getting funding for programs in your community. So when you say, yo, I don't care, I'm not voting, F the system, fuck that, it ain't doing nothing for me. Well, the taxes, transportation,
hell yeah.
education, labor, if your neighborhoods are dirty, there's so many things that we're missing out on that we need to make sure that we're a part of, because literally we fought and we died for this country. You know what I'm saying? And to have rights that we currently have right now.
To have a young man out there being killed right now and not being investigated properly in Mississippi, it shows you that we are not moving as fastly away from hatred as we should. And that's how it is. I mean, humanity is exclusive. It talks about in the Bible is just horrible when it comes to stuff like that. So that's why what we try to do is just educate, influence everyone to actually read, understand what's going on in the communities. Everyone could, do something out there to help in some form. I mean, right now, Donald and I, as you can see right behind them, is a beautiful painting that we found in Brooklyn from a great artist. And we are going to start, which we have already been doing in Indianapolis, starting art festivals. And we're going to start a art studio right now where we have in our RSL collection. RSL is Read Small Legacy. That's the name of the company that umbrellas Road to Legacy podcast. And also we're working with the Ruby Bridges Foundation. What we're doing is we're doing these things to big up stuff like this, like we just told you about the 3/5 clause and what we told you about, people like Nolan Wells, where we wish that we had the capital right now to actually donate money to his foundation. As a matter of fact, I think today I'm going to take a little bit of my own money. It might not be more than $100 or $50. And I'm going to send it to his Cash App or his fund.
To Nolan Wells, right?
Yeah. And the reason why is because when, what's the egregious human being, a 19-year-old crossed two borders with his gun and shot the two white guys to death and got off? Fetterman? Not Fetterman. Fetterman?
No, not Fetterman.
What's his name?
What's his name? No, it's not Timothy.
Well, Fetterman. Who was Fetterman? Fetterman was. Let me see who this guy. See, these are things that I don't really think about and get into deeply because I don't want to hear it. It builds up something in my heart that makes me want to strike out, and I don't need that in my life right now. I'm at that age where I'm just not wanting.
Kyle Rittenhouse
kill nobody. Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse. He got a GoFundMe and he made a lot of money.
And then he also tried to run for office.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of money. I mean, one of those guys, him, a couple of other, and if anybody out there is listening to this podcast and can hear, just tell us who it is. But it's another couple of people who made a lot of money off of GoFundMes after they killed people who actually had the right to speak. Went to court, got off. Because both sides, they just didn't know the information or they had a weak lawyers to protect them. The point of the matter is that he shouldn't have got off.
What was interesting is that the narrative is very, very different all the time when it comes down to African Americans and whites. So we talk about Kyle Rittenhouse, for example. He showed up to a protest armed with an assault rifle and murdered people and got off. And white people felt sympathy for him. That's why he was able to raise so much money. But I'm constantly reminded when we look at Nolan Wells right now, it reminds me of going back to 1955, Emmett Till. Mm-hmm. If y'all don't remember Emmett Till, 14-year-old from Chicago, went to go visit his family in Mississippi. Goddamn Mississippi. A great song by Nina Simone, where she sang about Mississippi. And it's crazy. But then, Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Amadou Diallo, Sean Bell, Oscar Grant, Jordan Davis, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Philando Castile, Ahmed Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, excuse me. And, there's these constant names that keep coming up, right? And it's like there's this inequality in our country that still exists in the year 2026, where we're still having this conversation revolving around race and revolving around equity, revolving around justice. And some people may say, "Oh, I'm tired of hearing this black story and da da da."
Stop shooting us, and then you won't have to hear no more stories.
Yeah, and then you'll hear people say, "Oh, but what about black on black crime?" And yes, that exists, but there's white on white crime, there's Asian on Asian crime, there's Indian on Indian crime. But the difference is the way these things are being reported. And Joe Madison and Karen Hunter now, and shout out to Sirius XM, Larry Daniel Favors, Clay Kane, and all of them, Dr. Carr. Joe Madison, who used to ask the question, is like, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to bring change and into the narrative and what's keep happening? Like, what are you doing? What are we doing to create change? You know what I'm saying? And another thing that I want to mention too is that as an African American father with two young kids, there's always this challenge of having the conversation, or the necessarily need to have the conversation, and how is it presented? Because I know a lot of times for me, when I try to teach my kids about Black history, African American history, it's like, oh, another Black story. Oh, I don't want to hear this, that, and da da da. And it creates a challenge to even talk to my own children about this, because a lot of times people don't want to hear about it.
Well, that's in America, because we're we're spoiled. We're spoiled when it comes to talking about our freedom. We're spoiled when it comes about talking about because other people around the world, they don't really talk about their Blackness and their freedom, because they haven't been oppressed, or they feel that they haven't been oppressed in a way where African Americans have been oppressed the most when it comes to, I don't want to separate Black people, but when it comes to us as Black people around the world, not being allowed to read, not being allowed to have your thing. Somebody asked me today, why is there a carnival? I said, well, there's carnival because of that. A lot of people in the Caribbean were free to express themselves through the church, express themselves, after Lent. New Orleans, they were able to express themselves. Now some Black people don't even have floats in New Orleans. They call them crews. But, we're spoiled, and our kids are spoiled because they haven't seen the struggle. And I say that because I have firsthand here. Right now I'm in a country. I'm in St. Lucia, and they have no idea. And I love you all, St. Lucians, but however, I'm not going to say but. However, there's a lot of St. Lucians, old and young, that I've asked. I've asked over maybe 30 to 40 St. Lucians about their Black history, and they don't know. And fortunately, we're able to, because of our struggle, we're able to talk about what we've been through in America, and we can still talk about it, even though Donald Trump, Project 2025, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, they're all in office that are trying to oppress what we're saying, but it's never going to be oppressed because we've been talking about it for so long. So hopefully our kids don't have to go through what our ancestors had to go through in order for them to talk about it. There's a woman here in St. Lucia that is basically started the revolution. I'm going to look her up right now. I'm going to ask you, Donna, if you could post it. She's called the Queen of St. Lucia, and she freed herself from slavery in the 1700s and started the biggest revolt in the Caribbean. And everyone in the Caribbean should know her. Her name is, let me just get her name out. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. Now, my tongue has been colonialized, right? So I'm not going to say this right. Even though it's a colonial name, I'm an American through and through, and I speak one language, and that's English. So it's one of my things. But her name was Flore, Flore, Boyce, Bois, Gilead, or Gilead,
Mhm.
Gillard. Now,
Yes.
before I go to a country, whenever I travel to a country, Morocco or Ghana, Nigeria, wherever I go, I always look for Black history because there's always a base to that country in Black history, unless it's somewhere like Norway or something like that, right? So I always look for it, and I could not find any heavy Black history or Black history monuments, I mean, big ones out here in St. Lucia, other than the ones that had presidents from maybe the 1800s to maybe now, but not back during the slavery days. And then I found this woman. And when I found her, I looked for her memorial or her grave site. I think I found 2 memorials on the other side of the island, which I don't think I'm going to go to this time. This is the 5th time I came to this island. And then I found her. And I found her, but I couldn't find her grave. So there's not a lot of history on her, but there's few people that know about her. But then they say, oh, we heard about her. Oh my God, that's true. I remember that. Now there's a restaurant right on the hill, right on the other side of the mountain called Rabot. And she was in the if I could remember right, I can't read it here, but let me see if I can pull up. She was in the Rabot Rebellion. She was, all I know about her is that she was a slave who was like tired of being enslaved and raped, and she just decided, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start this revolution in 1790. Now
93, yeah.
Right. So now during those times, the Battle of Rabot in 1795, they attacked the planters, and and they fought for their stuff. But the thing about that, around that same time, we were being, enslaved, but we were fighting too. We were fighting politically and so forth and so on. So it wasn't like we weren't present and we weren't in value on both sides of, and from the Caribbean to Africa to here, on both sides to America, on both sides of the track. We have always been very valuable. But a lot of people in the Caribbean don't know their history. And sometimes when they come, I'm not saying all the time to my Caribbean brothers and sisters out there, right? But sometimes when you come to America and you bump into people like me or people like Donald, and you say, yo, you guys are lazy. Why you let this stuff happen to you? Why you guys were not living with your oppressors? You guys had time to barter. You guys had time to create your carnivals. You had time to create your churches, your businesses, and still were oppressed in a certain form. Haiti gets hit hard because it geographically it's in a place where, it just can't stand up. And they know a lot of their history. That's another reason they get hit hard.
Haitians know a lot. Yeah.
Right.
During that date of her revolt, there was also the Haitian Revolution.
Exactly.
That happened at the same time.
Right. And she was a big part of people seeing in the Caribbean of what was going on with her. So my point is that, and I asked my St. Lucian brothers and sisters, young ones, and I don't ask it as a shameful way. I just ask them that, ask yourself this question: why don't you know about this woman? It's a different way of not being taught. It's a different way of not of oppression, because maybe they don't feel like they need it.
Well, there's one thing that I found out, because as you know, my wife is from Trinidad, and her dad, who's 86, told me that when he grew up, because they were colonized by Britain, as a lot of the Caribbean, Spain, right, Britain, etc. And he told me that in school, they were taught British history. And if you were taught or you went to study Trinidadian history, that it was looked down upon. You weren't considered intelligent.
Right.
And this is throughout a lot of the Caribbean.
Yeah, but see, it's different between us, and I'm not trying to say it's worse or better, because that's another form, like you're saying, like I'm saying, and you're saying, it's another form of oppression. Because if we were caught, we would be killed. Our penises would be cut off, or we would be freaking foot chopped off, or tongue cut out, or eyes gouged out and shit. You know what I'm saying?
And also during that time of 1793, that's when the Fugitive Slave Act was enacted in the United States for us.
Right. But what was Haiti free?
Haiti was not free at the time. This is
when did they get their freedom?
When did Haiti get their freedom?
It's 17, 18, 17. When Toussaint, what's his name?
Toussaint Louverture.
Yeah, Toussaint Louverture did his thing at a certain time. It was 17. It was back in
1804.
Right.
1804.
So a lot of people, black people, are like, wow, man, Haiti is like the joint, man. You guys are they had the money, they had everything. It was killing the game back in those days when it came to freedom. Right?
Yeah.
And that's why they're suffering now.
They are suffering now because French was still taxing them.
Right.
Up until this day.
They're paying reparations to the French.
Yes. The French losing the war.
Right.
Which is so mind-blowing to me. So mind-blowing. And I we just got a little bit of breaking news that came in while we were talking. I don't know if you heard about this the school shooter in Appalachia, a high school. His father was sentenced to 15 years because his father was responsible for his son. He gave his son an assault rifle for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a high school in Georgia, excuse me. His father was sentenced to 15 years in jail. It's a white shooter. That's what he got. Happened in September 4th, 2024.
You're not supposed to give a gift to your kid, freaking assault rifle. What's up with that?
Well, he gave his son an assault rifle as a gift for Christmas, and his son, in turn, took that to the high school and killed people.
Right. So he deserves he should have got more time.
Yeah. It's crazy. We hear stuff like that. I didn't mean to interject on what you were saying though, but
well, no, I mean, I just wanted to make a point that we all need to know the whole story, and that's why we're here, and that's why we like telling stories. So right now, Donald's side of the world, he's working on a film about Dapper Africa. Hopefully, we can add more people, add more films like that as we grow. We're going to be definitely asking, once we get all our lines and all our stuff together, from our kids to our families, we're going to be definitely asking for donations to help us complete this film about this Dapper Africa young man. Can you tell them a little bit about Dapper Africa?
Yeah, Dapper Africa was a really great friend of mine. We used to call each other cousins, and over the years, he developed into this amazing creative director. He styled and dressed people from Erykah Badu to Sheila Marley to Stacey Barth to Frenchie Davis to Bilal. Now, some of these people you may not know of by name, but you should know some of them. You know, what I would like to do is I'm going to put up just a very brief clip to share with you guys, so you can take a tiny peek, a sneak peek of the Dapper Africa doc. I'm just
as he pulls that up, Dapper Africa was also, he was an industry figure, he was a stylist, and he was an artist. And there's articles back in 2019. That's when he died, I think it was, right?
We're in 2026. He
So-
died like maybe 2021, 2020, 2021.
Well, there's an article that was posted in 2019 about his death. That's why I asked that question about the death. And the article basically breaks down. It's from, and we usually don't do this, but in order for you guys to know why we're doing this, the article is from Fashion Bomb Daily.
Yes.
And it's basically about Dapper Africa and what he did. And so you could read about, what this is all about and why we think it's part at the road to legacy that because he left a legacy, even though he died, he left what he left. He left a legacy. And no matter what people might have thought of him, he still left a legacy. And his fashion was just iconic. So, yes, you should definitely shoot that film so we can see what you're talking about, Don.
Yeah, I am going to let me try to share this with you guys really quickly. Let me see if I could pull it up. Bear with me for 2 seconds.
And the thing about it, he was the type of guy who was out there in the streets doing his thing. I mean, if you can go to Dapper Africa, also you can follow him on Instagram if you want to see what he's all about. There's a couple pictures of him with, like Donald said, Erykah Badu.
Here we go. This is a small clip.
Turn it up. Turn it up. You got to turn that shit up. Turn that up.
The world came to know him as Dapper Africa. But before the style, before the influence, he was simply Alon Travis. I met him in Times Square in the early 90s. And from that first conversation, we became close, like brothers. We used to call each other cousins. Even then, he carried a dream and a vision most people couldn't yet see. He described himself as leadership from the bag, the dream wardrobe, creative direction, demon killer, healer of traumas, and fashion icon. What Alon Travis grew into was unbelievable, influencing people from models to artists like Erykah Badu, Stacey Barth, Frenchie Davis, Bilal, and Cela Marley, just to name a few. But no one really knew he was struggling inside. I knew. Before I could apologize for our last meaningless argument, he was gone, down alone on a park bench in New York City. His story deserves to be told.
Erykah Badu gave me this coat, she gave me this shirt. Erykah Badu gave me this coat, she gave me this shirt.
Oh, that was so that is coming soon. It's a Road to Legacy film. It's also part of our what we do to just bring awareness about that anybody could do anything that they set their mind to. And once you hear his story through this film and hear Donald talk about it more, you will definitely understand that if a man like that can do it, you can do it, and you can be more successful at doing what you need to do. And that's what we do at the Road to Legacy. We just like to big people up to make sure that our culture is represented properly and that, we leave our legacy here. We keep, something that's tangible so that your children can touch something that we did after we leave this earth. But that's what we have to say today at the Road to Legacy. The time is going down kind of short. Is there anything else you got to say, Donald Reed?
Our mission is very simple. We inspire, we educate, and we influence people. Legacy isn't what you leave behind. Legacy is what you do to build every single day by how you choose to live. And until next time, that's all I got to say.
All right. And then, so we're out. And let me tell everybody, just continue to just push forward. Even with this government, the situation that we have here, there's hope. There's hope. It's not all over until the fat lady sings. That's what it's about. So God bless everybody today. Road to Legacy. We love you. We thank you for supporting all the things that we've done over the years, from our toy drives to what we're about to do right now with Indy Juneteenth in Indiana. You've moved with us from New York to Indiana and back and forth, and we really appreciate every single person who supports us, whether it be 2 or whether it be 10,000. We love you guys. So, you know, like Donald said, we're here to influence, inspire, and educate.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Road to Legacy Podcast on YouTube. Don't forget to follow us on our TikTok page, which is also the same thing. And also our Instagram page. And we also do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Road to Legacy.
Check.
And we love you guys. And lastly, if you want to buy some art, you like the photo of what you see behind me, it is for sale.
And so when he says that, you can go to our Instagram and ask what it's for sale for. Also, we have a lot of other paintings going up, but just go to our Instagram. You can go to our Facebook. You can come to our YouTube, and you can email us and let us know, and we'll let you know what's going on. We have a lot more art just in that. Next podcast, we'll show you. We'll do an art podcast. And we'll tell you about new artists that we're meeting also. There's a couple of artists that we know, and one of them being the guy behind. We have to explain who that guy is, and we'll do that next time. Okay, so that's it. That's all I got to say.
And that's all I got to say, too. Until next time, be safe. God bless y'all. Peace.
Peace. Maya Angelou said, if you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. I'm Martin. This is Donald and Curtis. We're native New Yorkers. Welcome to Season 3 of the Road to Legacy podcast.
Together, Martin and I have worked in hospitality for about almost 40 years, and we've been truly blessed to meet people from all walks of life. And in those conversations, it led us to question, what is legacy? What is the driving force that motivates people to do what it is that they do? That passion led us to create the Road to Legacy podcast.
And hey, I'm Curtis, the newest passenger on this Road to Legacy podcast, a student, lover of history, and I'm just super enthused, man, to be along for the ride with my brothers, discussing, debating life, politics, and race, and everything in between. Just hope you come and join us on this quest of seeking, learning, and above all, leaving a legacy. Grace and peace from the Road to Legacy.